Okay, so one of the things I talk about with movies that you should be thinking about is always look at what are the first things the director shows you, right? What are the first things you see in the movie? This is a movie that has a pretty dramatic opening 5 or 6 minutes. There's a lot of stuff packed in there. It is strange and it is disorienting, much like 2001. It takes a second, like, what am I looking at? What is this movie? So I want to kind of go real slow through the first couple of minutes to kind of look at what does David Lynch want to start us out with and why. What does he want? So again, and it's perfectly good to ask questions like, what's going on with Jeffrey? Why is he acting like this? What is going on with Frank? What drugs is he doing with that mask? I mean, these are fine questions to ask. I just also want you to ask questions about why does the director choose to open the movie like this, and what audiences learn when they see the things the director showed them. So let's talk about how the movie opens. Obviously, the movie's called Blue Velvet, and so the first thing you see is blue velvet. Um, but specifically in the form of curtains, blue velvet curtains. Now, David Lynch is a director. He does lots of movies and a TV show. He loves curtains. He puts them in all of his stuff. You'll see curtains again in Lost Highway and again in Mulholland Drive. And if you're a Twin Peaks person, he uses curtains very heavily in Twin Peaks. He loves curtains. Why? And this is where you have to go. This is the next. You can't just be like, "Hey, there are curtains." You got to talk about why there are curtains. What is the purpose of a curtain? Hey, I got a curtain right behind me. The purpose of a curtain is to conceal. It covers things up. This is a very thin curtain, and you can kind of see through it. But the whole point of a curtain is it covers things up. It makes you want to know what's on the other side of the curtain. That is what this movie is about. It's about characters, Jeffrey in particular, who wants to know what's on the other side of Dorothy Valen's apartment door. What's the story with the ear? Right? He wants to know things. The whole point of a curtain is to conceal, to cover, and he wants to pull back the cover and see what's really going on underneath. Um, and I'll tell you this: there's a famous story from ancient Greece about a painting competition between these two guys. And the first guy drew grapes on the wall, and the grapes were so realistic that the birds came down and tried to peck them. And so the judges were like, oh shit, this guy's going to win the painting competition. But the next guy, his painting was hidden behind a curtain. And the judges said to him, okay, we want to see what's behind the curtain. So the judges go up to the curtain to open it. And what do they discover? I bet you can guess. There was no curtain. It's a painting of a curtain. So while the first guy fooled the birds, the second guy fooled the judges, and he won the painting competition. But it's interesting to look at the difference of those two things. The birds thought the grapes were real grapes. The judges were tricked not because they were looking at the curtains, but because they were ignoring the curtains. They wanted to know what's on the other side of the curtains. They wanted to get the curtains out of the way, ignore the curtains to get to what's on the other side. And so they missed the curtains themselves. That's the trick. And that's what this movie's about. It's about people wanting to know what's on the other side. Okay, so the next thing, the music, by the way, is very rich old Hollywood music from the 50s, from like the 1950s. We haven't gotten to Vertigo yet, but when you do, I hope you will try. I hope you will remember the music in the opening of Blue Velvet. The lush strings is very similar to Alfred Hitchcock's music. Composed by Bernard Herrmann in the movie Vertigo, which we will watch. I wish I could connect it to Rear Window, but Rear Window doesn't have music like that. But Vertigo does. Both Vertigo and Rear Window are by Hitchcock. And so he's trying to create an old movie mood. Speaking of old movies, in the old days, when you used to go to the movies, there used to be a big curtain, and the curtain would open, and then the movie theater screen would be on the other side, and then they'd play the movie. They used to do in fact in New York they did it up until very recently. The last movie theater that had a curtain, I think, was taken down. It was the Ziegfeld. But it's a recurring. It's interesting that David Lynch and I brought is think it puts in front of his movie. Imagine watching this in a fancy movie theater. They open the curtain. There's a curtain. Then they open the curtain, and there's the movie. And what's the first thing you see? More curtains. It sets up this idea of what's on the other side, what's on the other side, what's on the other side, and that the movie is the thing that is going to be revealed to you, the audience, and then the characters are going to want to know what's going on in the secret whatever of Dorothy Valen's apartment, etc., etc. So that is the significance of the curtains. And the curtains are moving gently, right? Is it wind? Are they outside? Like, it makes you want to know, is it a window? What's going on? Okay, so the next thing that we see is this very upbeat sort of, we hear 1950s music, this very sort of upbeat music. And we get these images of flowers in front of a white picket fence with a red flowers, white picket fence, blue sky, firemen that are like waving, and there's like a dog on the thing, and little kids going to school. Um, these are classic images of happy America. These are suburban, this is white, suburban, peaceful, happy America. Yay, America. Red, white, and blue. The roses are red, the fence is white, the sky is blue. Um, but the images are so intense, it's almost like he's kidding. When you see these again at the end of the movie, you're going to feel like he's making fun of you. But at the beginning of this movie, you think, okay, there's America, a happy, peaceful place filled with happy people. And the music supports that because it's like a 1950s kind of boppity, it's sweet, it's pleasant. It's a very sort of pleasant space. It's also worth pointing out that I was talking about the curtain as a barrier between two things, right? You want to know what's on the other side of the curtain. Same thing with the fence. One of the first things David Lynch shows you is a fence. You're supposed to stay on your side of the fence, and I got my side of the fence, and you're not supposed to cross over into my side of the fence. The whole point of the fence is it is a division between two people. This is a movie about fence crossing. Kyle MacLachlan's character wants to know what's going on in Dorothy Valen's apartment, so he steals the key and he opens the door. It's like a fence, and he's going. The fence is chopping off a forbidden area, and he wants to go in there. The firemen don't seem super important, but later on there will be multiple images of zoom-ins of candles, the flame of the candle, the roar of the fire in the fire engine, of course, is the thing that puts out fires. And it's worth pointing out that one of the things fire symbolizes in traditional poetry is passion. My darling, I burn for you with an eternal flame. It's a symbol of passion, and that's one of the things this movie is about a kind of raging sexual passion. So the fire engine may seem not like much at the beginning, but fire is going to become a really important symbol in the movie, because fire is something that gives light and heat. You need it to live, the sun. But fire also destroys. It sets things on fire and burns things to the ground. This is partly David Lynch's view of sex, is that it is something that gives light and heat, but is also potentially very destructive, and sort of very dangerous. Cool. The other border that you see in the beginning of the movie is between the roses and the fence. Roses are things that grow in nature, and fences are things that are made by people. Where does this movie take place? Lumbertown. Well, what is Lumberton? What is Lumberton? It's a town where they make lumber. What's lumber? Well, they take trees, which is made by nature, and they turn them into wood made by human beings to make chairs and tables and stuff. So there's again this idea of like crossing a border from nature to culture, from roses to the fence, from the trees to the table in your house. Crossing borders, and so these are all the images that are right at the beginning of the movie. And guess what? All these things that I just said about border crossing, about secrets, about what's on the other side of the mirror, about the connection between a kind of animal, natural world and a human world, is something that is going to get crossed over again and again and again in this movie. It is fundamentally what the movie is about. Cool. Okay, good. Then you get that crazy scene where the dad is watering the plants. And then something happens to him, and he grabs the back of his neck, and he falls to the ground. And then you get this completely bizarre scene of him holding the hose right by his crotch so that it looks like he's peeing high up in the air. And a dog comes over to lick. Like something's gone wrong. This guy's very injured, but the dog doesn't know. The dog just drinks the water out of the hose. And then this little toddler comes wandering by, and the toddler is also too young to understand. The dog and the kid don't understand the seriousness of what has happened to Mr. Beaumont. That is a theme that the movie is going to continue to explore, as Kyle MacLachlan did not understand the seriousness of what's going on in Dorothy Valen's apartment. So, pretty good. Okay, so these are some of the opening images of the film. And of course, the big one that will jump out at you is the bugs. David Lynch zooms in. You got a perfectly happy, nice, beautiful lawn, but what's going on under the lawn? Roaring, clattering, chittering, monstrous insects. There's the surface where things are safe, and if you go on the other side of that curtain, go on the other side of that fence, there are dangerous, fucked up things if you look too closely. But they're there, and they're everywhere. I'll see you in the next video.